NelsonJoypad.com bring you another original. It's fucking great.
Once again, I step into the grim world of Warhammer. This is a place where I feel at home, where I know and understand the dangers. A place that I can let my chaotic side reign, if I so choose. It seems that after a period of drought after THQ crashed, that we're finally getting a nice stream of Warhammer games. I've gotten my grubby little mitts on the early access version of Mordheim City of the Damned, and I think that we may be in good hands with the developer Rogue Factor. In its current state, Mordheim City of the Damned gives us just a taste of what it may offer. At the time of this video, Mordheim offers 4 short tutorial levels to allow the player to get acquainted with the controls and tactics of the game and the skirmish mode, but more on that later. Mordheim City of the Damned is a turn-based strategy game, and it's set in the Warhammer fantasy universe. In the albeit limited gameplay, you'll take control of one of 4 factions: the Skaven, Human Mercenaries, the Sisters of Sigmar, or the Cult of the Possessed. All 4 of these warbands have comparable units, and I have to say that none of them really stood out to me over the others. Mordheim takes the basic premise of games like XCOM and adds a sense of excitement and inclusion by changing the regular layout of the gridded movement system and makes it much more pliable. In each move you can travel a certain distance within the radius of your movement points. It's not as arbitrary as 1 movement point equals 1 tile of movement. This approach works well, and it feels like a faster paced and more responsive game than it otherwise would be. That's not to say it's flawless. I found that occasionally the slightly hit or miss controls would take me into combat with an enemy that I had no intention of fighting. When a unit goes into combat, you have the standard options to attack the enemy with various moves, as well as disengaging from the area of conflict. Once you enter the combat zone, the only way out of it, other than killing them, is to either flee or disengage. Now this will use precious movement and attack points, and may leave you open to a free attack from your foe. It's an interesting mechanic, and one that really made me consider all of the options before attacking. Mordheim City of the Damned isn't overly attractive in the looks department in its current build. It certainly isn't a bad looking game as it stands, but there's more than enough time for Rogue Factor to apply a layer of polish, so I'm not worried. I did have some frame rate drop at times, and if your unit is in the wrong position, all you may see is the inside of a wall due to some poor camera angles, but it never really broke the game. I did have some problems in the skirmish multiplayer mode. In more than one game, my team was spawned on top of the enemy team. I mean literally on top of them, meaning that each and every one of my units was already in combat, and there were no tactics, no plans of attacks, and the winner was decided by the hit percentage and the ever-present dice gods. The control system is fairly bare bones at the moment. They're simple and easy to get to grips with, but the movement can sometimes be just a little bit wonky. As I'm predominantly a console gamer, I tend to plug my Xbox 360 controller into my PC whenever I have a game that supports the function. Mordheim does. However, it just didn't feel natural, so I quickly found that I reverted back to the mouse and keyboard approach. Currently, Mordheim City of the Damned has locked access to the player progression, campaign and some other features, meaning that what we have is a demo of the work in progress, and I have a suspicion that there will be much more content in the final version. In its current build, you have the option of selecting the loadout of your troops. This is a lovely addition, and you can select what armour and weapons your plucky soldiers will have. All of the changes are purely functional, and unfortunately equipping your heavy armour won't change the appearance of your men, although it may restrict movement. I found it was a great way to set up my warband to my preferred playing style. My ranged units had light armour so I could move them as scouts, whilst my heavy units had the biggest damn swords and axes that I could find. Along with those units, each army has a tank unit, rat ogres, demons, and so on. The different units add some much needed variety and versatility to the limited gameplay that's available, and I look forward to more units and or warbands being added. I think the one thing that didn't quite sit well in my playthrough was that this doesn't feel like a Warhammer game, not just yet. Now, this may simply be because we don't have access to the campaign or the story, and we only have the skirmish mode, so Rogue Factor may pull through in this regard. I enjoyed my time with Mordheim's City of the Damned, and I'm excited to see how the game will progress and where it will take us when it's finally launched. With the limited sneak peek that we have, I can see Mordheim being a big success, providing rogue factor adds a layer of polish and keeps up the good work.